An interesting argument came to my attention recently, and it was about this 2019 Science article by 4 economists that started the storm among roughly 200 Chinese scholars. In this article titled "Civic Honesty Around the Globe," there's this chart where 40 countries were ranked based on the wallet report rates, and China was on the bottom. The authors studied the level of civic honesty by leaving wallets in various places in these countries with a card with only an email address on it to see whether people contacted the person about the wallet. I mean, that sounds fine. The only problem is people don't really use emails in China. Almost all daily messaging is done through WeChat. And in the case of a lost wallet, most people would turn it into police or owners of the property where the wallet was found. It's just not workable to study civic honesty in China in this way. And some Chinese scholars challenged the authors in Science's comment section. And they also launched a study of their own to challenge this method of measurement of civic honesty, and that paper was published recently in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Okay, when I read about this, I thought this was another one of those issues where part of the Chinese public jump up against some Western narrative, so I took a look at it. In Science's comment section, Khan et al. Defended their paper, and they said the focus of the paper was not even to provide a cross-country comparison. Rather, it was to show that contrary to common perceptions, people are more likely to return a wallet when there's cash in it. And their conclusion also kind of shows China in the good light, which is, like most other countries, when there is cash in the wallet, people are more likely to write to the email address, which means that, like most other countries, people tend to be honest. Also, they wrote that it's not really practical to study with any other method. It is possible to create thousands of different email addresses for people from different countries to write to. It wouldn't be so convenient to create thousands of different local phone numbers for people to call. At this point, I thought this was pretty good. It sounds fair. But then the Chinese scholars argued that if a cross-country comparison was not even the purpose, why would you provide this ranking across 40 different countries when the ranking was done through a method that is not fair for all these countries? You could use email addresses, but then maybe you could consider using email addresses only in countries where emails are actually sent. One could take a closer look at the chart and notice that the first half is mostly dominated by more developed worlds, and the second half is mostly developing nations, which starts with Brazil and ends with China. Here's what I thought. The point of the scholars is that the reality of developing countries is often forgotten about when scholars from a more developed world study a certain topic. People tend to run to methods that are easier to carry out in these worlds, in this case, the emails. Anyway, across the international community, some like to refer to this as the streetlight effect. And in this incident, one could understand this as Western bias, though not necessarily intentional. It basically means Western countries are more likely to be represented or rightfully represented simply because they're easier for scholars to access. And this could happen across a range of different topics, from behavioral science to climate change. But the good news is, in the scholastic world, people are starting to identify this Western bias whenever it happens. In some papers where a cross-country comparison cannot be avoided, some scholars are opting to rank alphabetically, and that is to reduce any connotations that can carry judgments. In the end, in this world, bias can exist in so many places, and one could easily be misled by social media, by mass media, by the confines of their community, but hopefully never by scholars who I believe are owners of the broadest and deepest minds.